We were talking about our founding story, though, and Kelsey, I kind of want to hear, the founding story that you had with Mother Games. Can you kind of go into that world, also introduce yourself? Would love to hear more about how that whole journey and idea started.
Sure. Well, I grew up in a family of entrepreneurs, so it's been in my blood for who knows how many generations, to be honest. But in my early days, probably early 20s, I started a company that at the time there was no words for an LLM, but we did natural language processing. We analyzed text. And the use case for it at the time was creating these polls and surveys for social data for big companies like CNN, ESPN, you name it. One of the highlights was that the top 10 on SportsCenter was informed by our data.
Cool.
Time Person of the Year was corroborated by our data. CNN polling information was live streaming, 15 milliseconds in our API on air. So that was very cool and very early days. This was when data was free flowing from Twitter at the time, free flowing from the Facebook fire hose. And in that transition phase when things started to clamp down and folks were trying to understand how do we work with unstructured text data where we are analyzing what is the essence of this. Palantir, as well as a couple others, approached us around, hey, we're interested in what you're doing. Yeah. And at that time, we thought that taking this to the next stage, working with, what Palantir pitched us was the world's largest institutions on the world's largest problems. And we went and sold the company to Palantir. I had the opportunity to work with them for 4 years. I stayed through my earnout, and I think that the reason that I stayed was because the approach and way to understand the world through the lens of data in context is something that was unmatched, having that experience with folks in Palantir. But it also afforded me the time and the opportunity to reflect on my personal journey. And in that process, I was like, hey, I'm 24 years old. I've checked all the boxes, right? We've raised the money, we've sold the company, we, have a good life. But I'm like, I don't know if this is fulfillment of the human experience. And really fortunate to have had the space and time to do that. That kind of set me on a self-discovery, self-reflection journey. And I realized that whatever company that I start next needs to embody some of these life principles that I feel are universal truths for many. Mm-hmm. And it needs to do it in a way that is fun and playful and enjoyable. And off the back of, I spent some time in the movie industry, worked on a film that premiered at Venice Film Festival and a film that premiered at Sheffield Doc Fest. They're both award-winning, and that experience made me realize telling stories through media is powerful, but it doesn't create the sort of habit change, for example, that a game or a daily experience that you're putting your mind on some consistent basis offers. Yeah. And that's where Mother Games came in, Mother is about, using the tools that all of our team, myself, Brian Alcazar, who was one of the main producers on Grand Theft Auto 5, our head of engineering, Yevgen Kopa, who was deep in Ubisoft. These folks have been in the trenches, and they want to do one last go-around where they're like, let's use all of our knowledge, insider knowledge, myself from the data and storytelling side, and the others from their industry experience, Matthias Correa, former founder of Behance, the largest creative network that sold to Adobe. All of those folks are basically saying, let's use our bag of tricks to tell a story and create a game and create a company, a platform that enables fun and play in the direction of a world that we actually want to live in.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the background there on the whole process.
Yeah, and we'll get way more into Mother in a second. Eric, I'm curious, do you recall the first time you met Kelsey and the first time you heard more about Mother Games, and what was your initial thoughts when meeting Kelsey?
Well, we first met Kelsey 13 years ago, 12?
10 years ago. 10 years ago. With my first company.
Well, with the first company which she mentioned, which was called PopTip.
Yeah.
So
were you all investors in PopTip?
We led the seed round.
Okay, got it.
And you were introduced to us by Kenny is the one that you were introduced to, or
we were on a show, a pitch show together, and I won the pitch, and Kenny was one of the judges, and Ben was one of the judges, and Jordan Cooper was one of the judges.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and that was our second fund. So just to
early.
It was very early. Right now we're raising our 9th fund. Plus we have 4 growth funds. So it's we were just getting started as a team, but we invested. It was a great outcome for us, which when it sold to Palantir. But more importantly, we were very impressed with Kelsey and her team's approach to taking kind of unstructured data, mostly written data, and then parsing what's important out of this, getting trends and getting statistics and getting whatever it is that someone wanted to see. It was very, very early in natural language processing, and I think it's to Kelsey's and her team's credit that Palantir, which is a data company, recognized that they could use that technology and that technique and the team. So that it worked out great. So we kind of lost track a little bit of Kelsey.
I went undercover.
You went off the grid.
Yeah. I was like, listen, if we're gonna reemerge in this technology space, you better be very sure about what you're working on.
Yeah.
And so that was part of my process. I was like, blinders on, figure out what is the next 10 years about, because it takes a lot of work to start a company. And it can't just be something for me, it cannot be something that is just like a good market opportunity.
Okay.
That is just like folks say, AI is a tool. Money is a tool. It's a vehicle to bring something to life, and to create a way of life for yourself or for others. And so great. The market opportunity and the market scale has to be there as one of the inputs in the entire stack of considerations on why should something come to life? Why should we put human attention on this thing? Is it simply for the payout, or is that, a proof point that there's value there, right?
And thankfully she remembered us. When she reemerged.
Yeah, I was gonna
Of
say.
course, but your guys, you all are iconic. It was incredible.
I was going to say, was it shocking from going from a data-focused company, and I know there's for sure data involved in Mother Games, but when you hear a pitch from Kelsey now that I want to have a gaming company, was that shocking to hear, or were you all for it early on?
Well, we were all for it early on because of the special approach and and kind of the journey that she wants to go through, which is not the classic way that you would build a video game.
Yeah.
And also let's remember, most video games that are popular are pretty violent games, right? There's guns and death. And
Those are his favorite.
well, they're very popular, I'm sure.
I don't know about all that, but I don't really play games. But keep going.
but we felt that there was a lot of white space in different genre of game where you're going through maybe a little bit of a more spiritual journey. You're trying to discover yourself. You're making kind of meeting new friends. You're meeting AI characters, but you're not looking to kill anybody. You're trying to progress in your life and make it fun. It's a game. And you want to win, but it's enjoyable, and it's going to also allow you to discover yourself.
I think this is like a great intro into what is the game. Like I think our audience would love to hear what is the game that you've developed, and how has it embodied these things you learned of finding kind of yourself and the purpose in life. How did you implement those into a game that people can also get to have that experience playing it?
Cool. Yeah. So the game kind of follows the plot line of like Alice in Wonderland. You fall down the rabbit hole and you get to encounter reflections of characters who represent different facets of yourself, right? But in that process, you can choose your own adventure. So it's a highly personalized experience. My background in the data space comes into play. We have some, in the gaming world, they call it emergent gaming model. But in consumer technology, we call it personalized experience, right? And so the game itself offers a personalized experience in a surreal, psychedelic, virtual theme park. Think Disney World for adults. And you,
Isn't
as
that just Disney World these days?
Disney
I mean,
adults.
listen, they've gone whole hog. They're offering themselves to everybody, at this point. But
Disney adult fans are gonna hate that joke, man.
yeah, right.
I'm
Yeah,
so-
yeah, I
I'm
know.
so
They're
sorry.
like, yeah, it's okay if you like Frozen, it's okay. Yeah, I think so. That's our first title, okay? And that game is a platform. Lazoo is a platform where players can experience different types of gameplay sessions. So if you're looking to have an open world experience similar to Roblox or Fortnite, that's available to you. We also have a catalog of mini games that if you're just looking for a quick hit on, a puzzle game or something that kind of stretches your mind or makes you laugh or whatever, those are also available to the player. And then I think that what's really important is that this entire game is built on a pipeline and a platform that is game agnostic, so title agnostic, right? We've built a minigame prototyper, which is basically a large language model that outputs a code package instead of, for example, a text response. So it's text to minigame. And the minigame package is a Unity minigame package. It will probably scale beyond that into other gaming engines. And that is one of the core pieces of technology. We also have 5 custom large language models that allow us to write content in a way that is, obviously very different than the other ways video games were doing things in the past. And that accelerates our speed of development. So we started building our production build after debuting a prototype during our pre-seed round. And that production build, video games can take years to debut or even see the light of day. We put out our production, first pass of a portion of our alpha to players in under 7 months from our first, production line of code, if you will. So I think our goal is to deliver game experiences like consumer applications with regular builds to players, same thing that you would see with an alpha consumer product. And those regular builds are built using native machine learning, native AI, all of that from the ground up. This isn't something where we're just sprinkling the magic on top. It's actually embedded from day one. And I think that there's space now in the market for someone who's approaching this from the latest and greatest. All of the other gaming companies are over 10 years old. Roblox is over 10 years old. Fortnite is very old, and very cool. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. And there's space now to create something with the latest and the advent of where we are now.
Within Lazoo, you can be placed into a house, or you take a quiz to figure out which of the 5 houses you're in. Josiah and I both took that quiz, and I want you to guess. And you've talked to us for a little bit now. You've met us a little bit. What house do you think we were placed in after we took the quiz?
Okay, Josiah hasn't said much, so I'm not sure about this. I'm not sure about this.
Sorry, I mean, I'm listening.
Yeah.
You're so involved right now. It's like
Yes. Are either of you two in a relationship?
We both are. But
Yes.
he's getting married in 2 weeks.
I am getting married in 2 weeks. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I was in a situation for a year, and now we're dating. So.
Oh, great, great.
So she hears that, I guess.
Great,
Yeah,
great. Okay, cool. first out of the gate, I kind of, for some reason, I was thinking blue for you. But I think, so as they were saying, there's 5 archetypal houses. And these archetypal houses are kind of like a personality quiz. And it's not only that you take the quiz before you play the game, but as you play the game, your house will update based off of kind of your alignment. Your house can change, exactly.
Wow.
But I feel like
What's blue associated with which house?
so I know you're not blue because of your response, right?
Okay.
But I think so. Blue is all about connection and relationships. You're the loyal friend, right? Like you're the one who's like a ride or die. You're gonna show up no matter what.
That's not me. I
Yeah,
guess.
that's not him. That's not him.
I'm
Eric's blue.
You're blue. Okay.
Yeah, Eric's blue. And
This guy's a chameleon.
Yeah.
Fakest
yeah, I
friend in
know,
the
right?
world.
So red is always about pushing limits, okay? So the fact that you were like, I don't know, I think you might be a killer or whatever, you're like playing a little bit, you're like, putting the fire under him. That's red house energy, okay?
Yeah.
Green is about achievement. It's about accomplishment. So, you're always that goal striver. You might be someone who's the marathon runner. You might be someone who you've got your 5-year plan kind of laid out, White is about House of Mirrors. It's about reflecting not only on yourself and your inner reality, but on the hidden meanings in life. You're someone who sees things many ways. Like you're like, it could be like that or it could be like that, So, and then yellow is about generosity. It's House of Jewels. It's about, you're the one who feels all the feelings. They have all the space for you.
He must not be in any of these houses because these are all positive things.
Listen,
And
every house has a shadow side. And actually...
he lives deeply in his shadow
yeah,
side.
right. Yeah, right. Well, the shadow side, in the game, there's three realms. And in the dark realm, you do have the opportunity to confront your shadow side. So...
He's never been to counseling, so he'll never be there.
yeah, right?
He refuses to go.
Yeah. I'm curious, though, what is your house?
Well, I kind of wanted you to guess, but I don't know. I mean, you don't know us that well.
Listen,
so
I don't want to judge you by your faces or the fact that you said you weren't wearing fun clothes today. Okay, so I'm.
I don't even remember what color ours was. You remember?
I do remember.
Okay.
We're the same.
We're the same house. Yeah. Well, maybe if you know that we're the same, maybe that.
I think you're either white or red.
White or red. Okay. I don't think we're either white or red.
Your initial thought was correct.
Yeah.
We're blue, so we're just like you, Eric.
Yes.
we're both-
Yes.
The loyal brothers.
Wisdom
But you have a
house.
boss poker face, so that's very
Well,
cool.
I love poker,
Yeah.
terrible at poker.
Okay, great. Because when I met you out there, I was like, this guy's got to be blue. He moved to Austin. He's a blue guy.
I grew up in Texas, and so
Yeah. But if you are moving from, if you're moving from
The
a big
greatest city in
city
the world.
experience, if you're moving from a big city experience to Austin, Austin is much friendlier. It is much more like you got to be okay with less than like rapid pace of life, if that's the case. So you're gonna be either yellow or blue. So that was why
Well,
I'm
they
not
say-
saying.
They say if you make it in New York, you can make it anywhere, and he couldn't make it in New York, so he went to Austin.
There we go.
I'm a nobody here, but maybe I can be somewhat of a somebody in Austin, and I've yet to figure that one out.
We actually both moved from New York to Austin, so
Yeah.
maybe we're both
he
blue.
lived here an extra year than I did, and the reason he
yeah.
moved to Austin was because he had nothing here.
Yeah, that's
he
right.
was nothing without me, so he moved to Austin.
Together.
Well,
Together.
kind of together.
This is also blue house energy. You're like, if you're going, I'm going. You know,
That's so
like
true. I'm very loyal.
loyal, getting married, all of this is a thing. But also, it's interesting because the blue house of wisdom is knowing how to, knowing the power of relationships. You have the wisdom to know that you're not gonna burn bridges, but also you have the wisdom to know that you would like to highlight others' stories. You're turning a spotlight on the authenticity and the way that others are showing up in the world, right? And so, and all of this, by the way, is like very possible to determine through data and through actions, right? So in the game itself, every action you take corresponds to, you know, an archetypal pattern that you can then choose if you're like, oh, that's definitely me, or you can be like, I wasn't really trying to feel that. I mean, one of our executive producer, Brian, when he realized he was House of Infinity, he's like, you know, I guess I am a little fiery lately, you know,
This changes
and
everything.
you choose, like, is that the energy that I want to be in? You know, is that what's being called for in this moment? And it's definitely different than, you know, many games out there, especially RPG games, oftentimes are based in a medieval context where the roles and the player system hasn't really been modernized from the original you know, impetus of what does it mean to play a role in life.
Eric, I was going to ask, have you played the game?
No.
I've very superficially played the game.
Okay.
I'm not a game player generally, so I'm kind of waiting for the game to be, I don't know, I'm not going to say more populated, but kind of, you know, a little bit more along.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I wouldn't be a good tester of the game. I
Well,
don't think
the more
I
we talk about it, the more I want to play it. I'm not a big gamer either.
So
but
yeah, we were looking at the website. So they're called zoots. Like
Yes,
you
they're
will be a
zoots.
zoot.
Yep.
And
You gotta
are
zoot up.
Zoot up in the zoo, la zoo.
Yep.
And so how do you kind of like personalize your character, your zoot?
So the Zoot is not a human replica. I think there's a lot of different experiences right now, especially with the advent of AI, where people are trying to create hyper-realistic experiences. And we're point blank saying, like, what if it didn't have to be hyper-realistic all the time? Like, what if this is a completely different canvas, where you are human here and you get to be whatever you want in Lazoo. You can drop the identity of, you know, gender, you can drop the identity of having to have the Gucci t-shirt, you know, and I think, you know, when we look across, Eric was mentioning about like the landscape, right? Many different game titles, there's heavy brand consumption, heavy brand advertising, and it is a replica of your human experience on Earth. Whereas, you know, going into a virtual space, we have players right now on the game, and yes, Eric will be in the game when there is any sense of hand-holding going on in the game. Like right now, it's free-for-all. We call all of our playtests hard hat tours. You're going into a construction site of the park, right?
Is it
and
mobile or is it on?
it's mobile.
Okay.
Yep, it's mobile, but you know, in terms of the graphics, et cetera, we're really excited about the fact that you know, we're in a new world of what's possible with mobile processing. So the visuals are not, you know, blocks. They are immersive, transportive, psychedelic visuals that you can access on your phone. A lot of players that are currently in the game, you know, talk about being on their like break at like their shift break at work, and they're just like, I just wanted to like go feel like I'm flying, you know, and you're flying over these surrealist landscapes and experiencing what it feels like to be out of the body that you may feel is, you know, like I was shipped with these parts, you know, but within the game you could be a floating, like a floating meditative guy who's just like floating around the world. You could be you know, somebody with a skull mask who is, you know, running around just like being a little deviant, you know. So it's not literal, and it invites the feeling of like, oh, that's so me, but you're a little creature, you know, and
Yeah.
you're getting in touch with that part of yourself that is playful from the very beginning.
Is there or will there be a virtual reality component to the game?
Everybody has asked about that because the visuals are, you know, they feel like contemporary art or like, you know, a James Turrell exhibit, but inside of a virtual world. And part of why they look that way is because the vast majority of society doesn't have access to these sort of transformational visual experiences. Like we live in New York, or you did live in New York, and we have the Museum of Ice Cream, and you've got this immersive Instagram experience, and the new museum, and you've got all of these ways of tapping into the future of design and art, and something that takes you out of the literal world and allows you to say, well, what do I think it is? And what do I feel? Not what does the world want me to feel, and what is the world telling me I need? And so I do think that there's a world where it could branch into a virtual reality space. However, I will say that we are staying very focused on the mobile experience. That is where a majority of gamers are. In fact, Gen Z, Gen X, they consume more media through games than they do through film or television or even streaming video content. So mobile is the place to be. If VR takes off, listen, you and me are going to be the first to be in that world. But
wait.
everybody's been hoping for that to happen for a long time, but it hasn't happened yet.
Eric, what advice did you give Kelsey as she approached with Mother Games for her second company? What advice did you give as this journey began?
Well, the advice, the first advice is be yourself, right? I mean, we have a lot of experience helping companies build. Right. We've invested in well over 400 companies, and there are patterns. But the lesson number one is the founders are the founders, and they need to do what they think is right. Our job is to try to contain some of the most kind of initial. Don't go too much on the tangent, because. You've got to move forward more than you move sideways always. Mm-hmm. So we're just there to say, let's maybe focus on this a little bit more, focus on that a little bit more. But ultimately, she's the boss and she decides what to do. We as I mentioned before, we really love the idea that this would be a different genre, a different kind of game, and so we were very encouraging of that. And then a little, the AI component is going to be incredibly important, and I think the timing for Mother Games is really great because it was born when AI was born, or what we call AI today. Obviously, machine learning has been around for a long time. So, how do you incorporate AI? Without it being an artificial game, right. Without being a synthetic game entirely. But you can imagine that with AI, you can create all kinds of visuals, characters, backgrounds, experiences that can be created either in stock or they can be created on the fly, and that should enhance the value of the experience. Ultimately, you want people to be spending quite a bit of time. Particularly with a game like this. So Kelsey mentioned before that it takes a long time to build games. Okay. And a lot of it has to do with building the components, the characters and the backgrounds and the colors and the tools and all of that. With AI, you can cut down on that production timeline dramatically. Mm-hmm. And so you're constantly refreshing, you're making it fresh. But without losing the human component, you don't want to go in a world which is entirely populated by AI characters.
I feel like the customers will see right through that. I feel like it's the opposite.
1,000%. Like the reality is, and I've talked about this before, but humans are the ones who train the first models, right? And so what you put into the model, the training data, the RAG, the whole kit that is the underpinning of the AI layer is determined by humans. Mm-hmm. And so we take that job very seriously. And I think that, one of the realities of this game and the realities of Mother's mission is to create transformative experiences through gameplay. And when you're talking about a transformative experience, I'm talking about an experience that has the capacity to change the way that you see the world, right? We interviewed hundreds of gamers and asked them, what's a lesson you learned from your favorite game as a child? And everybody could repeat something. And that means that there is a mental impression that's happening when you play, when you watch a video, when you watch a film, when you play a game. It does have the potential to change your perspective if it's done well. That doesn't mean vapid, vaporware of more noise, right? If anything, the refinement process of knowing what do we show to the player and why is super important. And I think actually I will say, like, one of the best pieces of advice, coming from Eric is really around, let's talk about how we're telling the story, right? What is the message? And this is more at the company level, right? Not necessarily in the game level, but how are we rolling out the fact that, hey, we're a gaming company, we're an entertainment company, we're an arts company, and we're rolling out our first title. And by the way, we have a really, heavy tech foundation. But first, we need to tell the story of the art. Right. First, we need to tell the story of what the purpose is. And then we can say, by the way, this was all made with this. Yeah. Not, we are an AI company.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's not like every other company like
exactly. That. This is not the method. When Pixar started, Pixar didn't say, we are a CGI film company. They just said, we're Pixar, and here's our first film, Toy Story, that was built the first time using all CGI. This is the first film that, is a breakout film with CGI. The tech is in service of the storytelling and the outcome, and the way that we discuss the company has to also be in compliance with that. We can't just get, hot on the advent of technology, because then we're all in some sort of echo chamber.
Yeah.
You mentioned how games will leave this impression on people, and
yes.
I think that's a really powerful thing, leaving an indelible mark on the consciousness of people, and that's something that is now kind of in your hands if you do your game right.
Correct.
What do you think really guides you to make sure that that indelible mark is one that's good for humanity, one that leaves people with something that's going to make them a better person at the end of the day, rather than, like you mentioned with games that you're shooting people the whole time. That indelible mark will make
We're
your
seeing the effects of the
worldview very
indelible
different,
mark,
right?
Yeah.
And so, not necessarily that that's going to cause you to go do something terrible, but what would be that conscious, like indelible mark you're making on people, and what guides?
Yeah. Well, I think today people are kind of getting more and more familiar with the concept of neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity meaning the change of neural experiences in the brain, right? And the reason that we're getting more familiar with that as a society is because we are also at the psychedelic revolution. Like, you're looking at legislation and, these assisted therapies that enable people to change their mind using more rapid iteration cycles, with these various psychedelic assisted therapies.
Kind of like ketamine therapies?
Ketamine therapies.
Okay.
I mean, you're seeing, even when you look at like the uses of cannabis,
Sure.
and I know that they're psychedelic-like, for example, but you have billionaires on the West Coast advocating for psilocybin to be accessible, right? For PTSD processing, right? The reason why I'm bringing this up is because games are 20 times more efficient at creating habits within the human brain than other habit-forming methods. Part of that is because you're doing something in repetition, but you're also doing something in a survival capacity. And you're doing it in a way where you're seeing viscerally and identifying with a virtual version of yourself, and you're seeing, whoa, I'm capable of that. Mm-hmm. Whoa, I'm capable of that, right? And those create something, not to get too heady here, but I think in society, one of the terms is called reciprocal opening, meaning your brain keeps opening. It's like, if that's possible, what if that's possible? If that's possible, what if that's possible? In order for us to stay on track with what you're talking about, we have been doing a variety of things, including using EEG devices while players play the game.
That's cool.
So that we can understand what neural frequencies are actually happening. You may have seen lately, there's like tons of videos published about how people can control, Fortnite with something similar to like Neuralink, for example, right? That proves that what is happening in your mind can actually create outcomes in real life and vice versa. So we are tracking that very diligently, and I'm excited about growing what we will do, what we will be growing an advisory, basically an advisory council related to the future of entertainment, art, and gaming as it relates to its impact on society, right?
We're coming close to the end of our time here. So Eric, Kelsey, what is something you're looking forward to next year for the firm and for Mother that you're really excited about, that you really want to accomplish for 2025?
You mean outside of Mother? I mean,
for you, the firm, for you, Mother.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, for us, we're raising a new fund, which is our 9th fund, as I mentioned before, and we're looking forward to investing it in, all these new things that are coming down. We're generalists, so we invest across the board. Games is one of the few things we do, but we also do we do a lot of climate tech, we do a lot of healthcare, a lot of marketplaces, we do AI of all forms and flavors. We're not afraid of hardware, so we do robotics, and we're constantly looking at. We're kind of the canary in the coal mine. We've got a big deal flow, and then you start to see patterns of people who are working on new projects that will come to fruition only a couple years down the road. So you're really looking at the future, and that's what we love to do, and we're going to have a new fund to do that.
Yes. I'm excited about this. It's been a pleasure to be able to get to know other founders in the Lerer Hippeau portfolio, and also to see some people who I was like, hey, we were in that cohort last time around, which is fun. But I think as it relates to 2025, Lazoo will be coming out to mass audiences in 2025, which will be out of private alpha. Super excited. And we'll be debuting our trailer. We'll be starting to debut our AI platform called Womb. It is, yes, a little tongue-in-cheek. We are Mother, and our AI layer is called Womb, where all is birthed from. And I think that the most exciting thing that is going to be, coming to life is how does the world respond to a truly countercultural game experience that I believe really touches on topics in the zeitgeist of our reality of you're looking for a way out. I don't know about the rest of you, but the world right now is a wild place, and if you can navigate that wild experience with fun, play, silliness, and comedy, I think that it's going to be super fun to see the impact that the game is able to have. We already have, tens of thousands of people signed up in the pre-sign-up phase, and we're going to just blow that out moving into 2025 with the release of the trailer.
And if someone wants to get involved with Lazoo, it's Lezoo, and how can they get involved with the hard hat going into the world?
Yep, you can go to mothergames.com and navigate to Lazoo, and there you'll see that you get a full rundown of all the features, all of the houses, and you can either sign up to be a play tester with the qualification questions, or you can take the house quiz and join our Discord. We have a super incredible Discord. People greet each other every morning, share advice with each other. It's a really incredible group of people who are basically like, I want to create a new reality. Are you with me or what? That's the story there.
Well, we look forward to seeing that release soon.
Yep.
Eric, Kelsey, we really appreciate y'all coming on the show today. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.